So welcome everyone to today's class. In today's class, we are to talk about two powerful tools that are very useful for every data professional in practice. If you ask a data professional about views, if the person cannot tell you about views, and the person says they can use MySQL, that means the training is not complete. Because if you take away stored procedure, take away triggers, take away what we call views, take away what we call joins, the rest things here are what we call operators. Just as Dunka talked about, she mentioned operations, abi operators. All what she talked about, operations, you know what operations are. You're going to somewhere, maybe you're going to the bank to go and deposit money. That's like an operation you want to go and do. To perform it, if you're to use a database system, such events to be done here, what you use is what we call operators. You look at the screen, you'll be seeing, if you go through your query that you have written, you'll be seeing things like from. These are all operators because they are used to perform an operation. What is the operation here? Trigger is the operation. To perform the operation, you need what we call operators. So operators are like what I could call, many of you have seen a machine. You know, every machine should have a gear. Operators are like those gears in that machine. From inserting new data to updating existing records or deleting old records, you need those operators. The operators is what keeps the database to run smoothly, to give you the required results that you need. Take, for example, a company like Airtel. Some of us are Airtel's customers. Now, imagine Airtel tracking millions of calls and messages that their customer sends daily. If Airtel is to invite you or give you a job to come and work with them as part of their data team, what do you think you need to use MySQL to do? You will work with operators. Why? Because operators is what will help you to record each call for Airtel. It's operators that will help you to identify what we could call those connections that have issues. You know, there are times where people make calls. You find out that when you call because of network issue, to tell you, please, can we mute? Can we mute so that we'll understand these things? Yes, I will come back to you, ma. I've seen your hand. Thank you. Now, what I'm saying is this. Okay, most times when you place a call, something happens. Some of your calls don't go through. That means it's a kind of a dropped connection. You have to identify it. You have to. You have to be able to even predict network issues even before they happen. What helps you do that is operators. So we use operators to manage operations effectively here in MySQL. So there are a lot of things to it. She also made mention of tracking and event monitoring. Permit me to say, in any business, tracking, monitoring is very important. You have to do that. You have to track what you have done. You have to monitor. When we look at the aspect of communication, which is important for data professionals, we go deeper to another domain we call business analysis, because in the domain of business analysis, communication is very important, especially when we look at it within the context of stakeholder identification and management. The reason why is because when we look at the stakeholder matrix, first, stakeholders, because yeah, you work with stakeholders. Stakeholders are just those people, those companies who have influence and powers on the what I could call on the work of that organization. So every task you do here are for the stakeholders. The stakeholders can be the customers, can be governments, can be investors, can be the management, can be the staffs, and all of that. Now, when we go further to how you can effectively communicate your work to this set of persons, you must be able to monitor what you have done. It's important. So even with MySQL, when we bring it down to MySQL, that's what we refer to as tracking. I hope you understand this, man. That's where tracking begins from. MySQL is very good at it. You have to do that. For example, an online store like Konga can use MySQL to say, okay, they can tell you, please use MySQL, track customer purchases for us. Is that not tracking? Track customer purchases for us. That's tracking. They can say, use it, monitor inventory levels for us. That's monitoring. They can even say, okay, can you send alerts anytime a particular inventory is low? What you have to do for this to work is to set up what we call events in MySQL. In fact, thank you, Ma, for bringing this. Events. There are many Nigerian tech startups these days. Many of them. A lot have even advanced, like the fintech, like Flutterwave, Paystack, and others. Some banks always want to launch a new app. You will see Access Bank tomorrow. They bring this or they change a feature and all of that. But there is something these people always do. And that's one aspect where you are also needed to function effectively. And it is in the aspect of who we call users. It's very important. You monitor the users. And this is still something, a concept that comes within this aspect of tracking. Now, one of the reasons why it's important, like during one of our classes, I think our Saturday class with some students I had training with, we explored what happened in 1980 between Coca-Cola. It was actually a battle between Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Now, when you go through that story, you will figure out that Coca-Cola, before 1980, already had their product, their Coca-Cola drink. It was already going very fine. All of a sudden, in 1980, Coca-Cola decided to launch a new Coke. That's what this story is about. Please go through this story. I told us that as a data professional, you're a researcher. Go through it. You will learn a lot from the story. Okay? Maybe later we also send some materials to also add more value to it. Now, I'm saying this so that I want to connect the dots to that tracking event she talked about. Now, something happened. When Coca-Cola wanted to launch this product, they did not bother to make any findings. To them, data analysis, data science was not important. So they just woke up. Let's just bring in a new Coke. All because they had a competitor called Pepsi. But do you know what happened? They went further, produced this new Coke, launched it. Nobody bought. As like the whole output, the outcome of it was very, very low. They suffered a lot during that period. What later happened? They suspended that new Coke, went back to the former Coke they were using for decades, that they had good, loyal customers who were very happy with it. You have a product that is already doing fine. You just woke up to produce something new, just like that, without paying attention first to the users. The users. That's what we call users engagement. So at every point in practice, whatever you do here, when we talk about tracking, which has to also do with monitoring, it is important that you know the first set of persons you try to monitor, to track, are the users' engagement. It's very important. They didn't pay attention to that. They didn't consult their users, try to talk to them, to have one or two. Okay, what aspect of the former Coke do we need to improve upon? We have plans to come up with a new code, so we know what to do. That's to show you that they didn't pay attention, utilizing the knowledge of someone who is in this data field to say. So tracking calls for the need for that. It's always very important. Now, you ask me, sir, how do I track? That brings us to what we want to look at in today's class, called views. Because with MySQL, you can set up what we call views to track anything. If Coca-Cola wanted to track the user's engagement, because when we go further to that, we have what we call users, we have what we call user cases, because every user have a story. We see a lot of companies do that, even a lot of companies do that. So what I'm trying to say is this: when you come here as a data professional, you create for them what we call views. What views we do, if a bank like UBA wants to monitor or to track their users' engagement with their bank app to avoid hearing issues that your app don't open at so period of time, what they have to do, you have to do for them, is to set up views in MySQL to track how often is this app being used, which features in this app is most popular, in which of the aspects of this app are users dropping off from, not visiting. This is what we call insights. MySQL views helps us to do this. So you can see that everything here is connected. And by the time you have such insights revealed, what happens? It will allow the company to improve first their user experience, because the users are important. No users, no business success. If users are not satisfied, there is no business success. So all these are important. So why I'm saying this is because both the events, both the views, and all I've said, you have to master them. And let's look at them now. Let's look at them now so that we see how all this works. Just know that it's not just about knowing MySQL. You have to understand how to use it to make better business decisions. You need to know how to use it to solve real world problems. Okay? So, which one do we go for now? So I hope we know what we can see where views comes in now. Because for you to say, I want to track, if you're using views to do that, if you don't use views, rather, you need to now write complex queries. Yes, you have to do that. It could be your to track sales, your to monitor customer transactions for a bank, your to manage inventory for a manufacturing company. If we say go and write queries, it will be a complex queries. But if you're using views, like I told us during last class, that views is like a window. I told us about that. It's like a window. And it's what we call virtual table. It's also a table, but it is a type of table that you cannot touch. If you go towards your table section within your schemas, you won't see it there. That's what we call views. Like under tables, it's not like a normal table. So whatever you want to do and all of that, you can look at all this. So let's come up with a scenario now. Okay, let's come up with a scenario. I want us to look at a scenario. Let's go into the banking industry, because in industries like banking, in industries like telecommunication, you can use all these things I told you. Yeah, in bank are majorly concerned about tracking transactions. They are concerned about the fact that their customers' data is securely managed and available. That's why you should not go to your account to withdraw money and your money is not there. It's not possible. So if MySQL is being used, what it will do is that it will make sure that when you go to check your account balance, the money you have in your account is complete. the money you have in your account is up to date, is correct. So this tells us that it is not just about storing data. It's not just about it. Data can be stored and later you find out to hear another story. So it should not just be about storing data, but it should go beyond that. We should now look into how we can make that data to work for us, and that's it. So let's explore a scenario now so that we'll understand all of this. So before we go, I don't know if one person can confirm for us if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. So I want us to start something new now, so we can explore this concept of use shortly. Okay, you can just keep it there. Thanks. Now, I mentioned a lot of things. I want us to look into one of the challenges, especially the banking industry might actually have, which is in the aspect of monitoring customer transactions. So I will create a new script for this. So come with me under your file, click on create new SQL script. Okay, so I want us to imagine this. Let's talk about Zenith Bank. Now, many of us know Zenith Bank very well. Now, let's picture out a scenario from this. Critically, remember, I told us you must be a critical thinker. Now, let's imagine that Zenith Bank wants to closely monitor customer transactions. Maybe there was a report that there is this kind of unusual activity going on, that some customers are doing some kind of unusual stuff. Zenith Bank now say, oh, no problem. Let us monitor all our customer transactions. Let's see how we can detect any unusual activity. For them to do this, Zenith Bank will need a system that will help them track activities done by customers. Those activities are what we call events, ma. You know, you talk about events. Those activities are the events. Because I told us, when we talk about events here in MySQL, common events are insert. Another event is update. Another event is delete. Another event is alter, like to edit. So if Zenith Bank is saying they want us to help them closely monitor customer transactions because they want to detect a kind of unusual activities done by customers, they need a system that will perform these events, like that will help them track. Can you see tracking coming now? It will help them track these events. You are now the one to, first of all, what you first of all need to do is to now fit in what you have learned. That's what we call application. apply it to the scenario you know. The first answer, in the banking industry, what kind of event can I apply to MySQL as an insert event? That's what kind of activity done by, since this bank wants me to help them build or design a system that will help them track customers' events, because they want to monitor customers' transactions to detect unusual activities. What events done by customers of banks can be related to events have been taught in MySQL? You then look into it critically. First, if we are told to go and monitor, track customers' transactions of Zenith Bank, to build a system to do that, activity number one is deposits. We have to track their deposits, because this is one of the things that bank customers do. They deposit money. The money is the data. But first, what is the event we can relate? Deposit. Deposit here is related now. If we want to match this up, we match it with what? Insert. Because the same way they go to deposit money into their account, if you, a data professional, you will use your insert command to run that same task. So can you see how we identify these things? Another we can talk about is withdrawal, transfers. We still use insert, withdrawal, transfer. These are major. So that means what you have to do is to see how you can come up with a solution that will track deposit, track withdrawal, track transfer across all customers' accounts. And by the time you do this, you will be able to identify what they're actually looking for. To do these things I've just said, we will use what we call MySQL views. I'm making it a comment using 2-, single line comment. That's what we'll do. Because if the bank should be able to, let's say the data analyst in the bank, if the data analyst in the bank should be able to monitor customer transaction effectively, then he needs views. He needs views. In our recent cohort, we had about 3 staffs, just that most of them do not actually want the way they normally do it. Maybe it's company that send them, or they were asked to actually go out and explore 1 or 2 knowledge. We have someone who was from First Bank, we have another access, and all of that. You have to use this. So let's practicalize this thing. The first thing we need to do is we have understood the problem. We know the goal we want to achieve. Next, where is the data I need to use to solve this problem? Not everywhere you go and identify metrics. Some things you apply straight knowledge and do it. Where is the data? Let them give you the data. They have given it to you. You cannot put data where you don't have database. What do? You create a database for Zenith Bank. You say create database. Give it a name, Zenith Bank. Let's use the camel case method. Database created. I told us you go with what? Use Zenith Bank. Then the system will know that yes, this you want to work on this database. So I'm just going to execute this. Okay, so it has been. So I will refresh, and you can see just after we have to come down, you'll see Zenith Bank. Okay. Now, customers' data is what they will give us. So first we'll create a table for customers. So we'll come down, we say create table, name, customers, then provide the pillars, the structure of that will contain those information, hold it. First, we'll talk about customer ID. Data type will now come, int. Primary key. Please, for those persons who have not still mastered these things, this is the common when you go to an interview and all of that to be given to you to do. So let's take note of it, please. The full name, voucher. You know, these are things people run from. Mostly those persons doing internship with bank, they will always say, yeah, sir, hey, that the thing is too stressful, the workload here is too much. Of course, you know that these banks have a lot of customers that troop in day and night and all of that. Voucher. Account number. Okay. Account number. Account number will be int now. Account number will be int. Account type. Yeah. You know, some customers may have savings, current. Okay. I think this is perfect. So we'll end with our brackets and this. What is hard here? Because it disturbs me that when I check my phone, some people have not still been able to do this, to create database, and some persons have not still known why they are writing use Zenith Bank. If Zenith Bank should ask you to come and work with them, whether as an intern, when you come to the office on the system, you will write use. That's the first thing. This, so you're not creating database for them. This is what you do. Unless when you people have a technical challenge, this is what you must do. Use to specify which file. See Zenith Bank, this name as a file. Which file do you want to work with? You will use. It's a simple word. Use this file for me. So that's why I was telling some of us the other day on chat. If you don't understand this, is it in physical training you want to? This is the same thing you still learn. Nothing different. So why will it now be hard? Once this have been done, we will need another table for transactions of the customers. So all their transactions will be plugged in there. So that one, we'll say create table. Call it what? Transactions. The transaction ID, integer. We'll make it primary key. Please, it's a recurring link. Once it ends, just use the link sent to your group. People will now want to be confused now. Now, why am I using customer ID inside transaction table? Remember why we are using it. Transaction type. Let's be fast, please, so that we can move to joins. Voucher. Amount. Thank God I didn't forget this one. Amount. I told us amount, the data type is decimal. Then every transaction must have a date, just like bank statement. So we can also have transaction date. And I told us if you want to do date, the data type is date or date time. So if you are not putting date, you can put date time. It's the same. Then we'll also apply what we call foreign key. So our foreign key will now reference that identifier that is coming from another table to this table. That person is foreign. It was not here. So MySQL wants to know who that person is. So we use what we call foreign key for that. Why are we doing this? We are doing this to be able to blend this data together. The reason is because soon now we'll talk about joins. In joins, you'll now see other perspective that we have different type of join. We have the inner join, the right join, the left join, and all of that. But here now, we are trying to connect a bridge using primary key. So let's just flow with this. Who is the person from another group that is not supposed to be here? Is that not this customer ID? We'll now copy this customer ID, which was primary key of another, and put it inside this bracket. Then we'll come here, close it. We leave it that way, there will still be a challenge. SQL will be confused. So we now reference it. This customer ID that you say is a foreigner, which table, which family is it from? You will now use what we call reference and write the name of the family. That's the name of the table where it belongs. The name of the table it belongs is called customers. So you now reference it to what? Customers. And then bring it again. Customer ID. That's all. You come down, put your last bracket and your semicolon. If we go to line 22, we have an error. The int is not complete. The int is now complete. Let me expand this. So let's execute this now. So we have from line 13 down to line 28, execute. So we have executed. So if we refresh button, you see that under Zenith Bank, we now have a table, customers and what? Transactions. Now, this is it. Let's assume, because the way it works, you know, banks has a software they use. Banks have a software they use. So these softwares are all still plugged into a database. So your task is to retrieve. That's one of your major tasks you do, data retriever. Since they want to monitor, your own task will be to retrieve data from the database, because already they have a software that the teller unit uses to record and post all transactions and all of that. Now, let's say that you're now doing this one from scratch. The data is given to us manually to enter. You will now use your insert command to enter. Maybe they told us that these are 3 customers they are suspecting. So they want you to monitor their transactions. They gave you the data. What do? You run your insert, because that's an activity. Remember, I told us here that you use what? To track deposit, withdrawal, transfer. You use both your insert to do that. So what do we do now? We'll come here. We say insert into. Name of the table is what? Customers. If you forgot how your customer table was structured, what we do first is that we will list all the columns in that table so that we are not confused. And it's even good, it's even better, because when you want to do it offhand, sometimes we have errors you should not have. And the reason why you have that error is because you did not pay attention to certain detail and all of that. So what you will do here now is this. Insert into customers. We'll now bring it. In our customers, what are the columns? We have customer ID and all of them. So you now list it. In fact, be doing that method so you don't have errors, because there are some errors that might hide. So we say customer ID. We say we have full name. We say we have their email address. We say we have their account number. We say we have their account type. You know what to do now. Values. You now come down and enter all the values. So let's say we have the first person. Let's just do 3 persons, okay? Let's do 1, then we'll use 1 to copy. So number 1, Jonah Lawal. His email, jonalawal@ymail.com. Number 2. Is it number 2? No. Account number of this guy. His account number will say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's integer. Account type. We are told that his account type is savings. So we'll say savings. Comma. So let's now copy this so that it will be easier. So number 2, let's say number 2 account type is current account. These things we are doing, we'll do it in Python. So after this tableau, we'll do it in Python. The reason why we are not moving to Python next is so that we'll not cause confusion. Because some of us have not assimilated this one, so that we can practice this one. Tableau is all about visualization. If you go through your curriculum, you'll see it. Okay, Tableau is interesting, most especially when it comes to now findings, but there are still principles you need to learn that guides you, and that's where we'll spend most of our time to understand, so that you can build, powerful dashboards. So for this person, let's also change this phone, this account number. So let's say 01234567. Then for the name, we can use Fumi. Fumi Queen. And come here. Fumi Queen. So that's 2. So the last we asked to monitor is let's say it's a lady too. Joy Alfred. So for Joy Alfred, we'll say Joy. Okay, no, let's use Joy Okeke. So Joy Okeke, your own number, we can do 11. Okay, then let's say our own is savings. So that's it. Okay, so like I told us, once it is the last, you end with what? Semicolon. So I'm going to execute all this. So let's go to customers table now. So you can see we now have those customers they want us to monitor their activities. So lastly, before we look into monitoring it, which is the main deal, let's now ask for transactions. So come here, insert into transactions. So now there's something we are not going to do because of time here. This explanation we did here is not compulsory. This customer ID full name is just to guide you to know how many columns you have, so that we'll avoid all those errors we used to have before, that will go and provide something that is more than the column. So this one is just to guide you, so that you know that what should come is customer ID before full name, before email. But if you have mastered, your columns, there's no need. You can remove it. It does not stop you from anything. So insert into transactions. We'll now provide the data for the transactions. First is transaction ID. So we can say is 1. The next thing is, what was it, Seth? Customer ID. So it will be 1, 2. Let's say this is Jonah's own transactions. So let me remove all this to avoid confusion. Customer ID is Jonah Lawa. Transaction type. Let's say she made a deposit. That's an event. So come here, we put it deposit. Amount. How much did she deposit? We say 50,000. Let's shorten. We can shorten it to 5,000. Which date? Let's say she did it on the 1st of September, yesterday. So come here. We say the date format, so year first, followed by the month, followed by the day. The next thing we have there is now this is something I have to explain to you. You know that for bank, when you go to bank can retrieve your statement for you and even show you the time You paid a. Anytime you're working and you find out that that particular column is to store both date and time, date time is perfect for you. So you don't need to go and separate time separate. Okay, so if we wanted date and time to be together, over here I can still do it. All I'm going to do here, as I have my date, I'll put the time. So let's say this person paid this money 10:30 a.m. I'll put 10 colon 30 for the minutes second. That's what I will do. Put my quote and bracket close. I think that's all. Transaction ID, customer ID, transaction type, amount, transaction date. So we are just going to copy this for those three persons they want us to monitor. So come down, paste. So now this transaction 2, because every transaction has an ID given. So let's say that same period, Jonah Lawal withdrew. So we say withdrawal. How much? She came and withdraw 2,000. Remember, she had 5,000 before. Now she withdraw this one today. Okay, since yesterday was first, let's say this one was done on the because Sunday bank don't open. So let's say it was done on the 28th. So today now, she now came and withdrew 2,000 naira by 12 o'clock. We want to track, don't forget the mission. We are now told again that Fumi Queen came to do her own deposits. What we are using to represent these customers is their customer ID. Can you see it? So what makes this insert to know which customer is ID 1, ID 1, ID 2 is this linking we did here using primary key and foreign key. So when you use primary key and foreign key, you have just like created a bridge that in anytime I want to insert any transaction that is for a customer who is supposed to be in a customer table, we don't need to stress ourselves. All we have to do is to assign by the encoded number that every customer have been given. That's why it's now possible for us to do this. We say she's depositing. Let's say Queen deposited 10,000. Which date? Queen deposited her own also on the 28th of August. At what time? Let's say ours was at 11 a.m. Let's go to the next person here. Let's add 2 more transactions. So let's say number 4, ID 4, was done by Joy Okeke. Joy withdrew from her account. She withdrew 1,500 on the same date too, which is 28th of August. 2:30 is okay. Let's say at 2:30 p.m. The same Joy. And see, 3 is for Joy. The same Joy deposited 2,500. Let's say she deposited this one today. Let's say she deposited this money at 9 a.m. So we're Okay, so we said Joy deposited another amount, 25, 2nd of September at 9 a.m. So let's add the last. Let's just add one more. I'm not putting the class link. It's serious. So I want to commend every one of you for the level of effort you're putting. It's not easy. So this 6 ID 6. Let's say this was done by Queen. So Queen made a transfer. Remember, I listed transfer. So let's talk about that. And the amount was 3,000. Yeah. The date he did this transfer was today. The time she did it around 3:45 precisely. That's all. Now let's execute. So we can move to the main deal. So execute this. I know it's successful, but let's teach. Yeah, it is. So this is how you can actually retrieve data. You can go to under the table. You will see the date in the name of the table. You will see these 3 options. See this one that is like a map, like something is on it. If you click on it now, it will take you to a new page. You can see it, and it wrote down the SQL query for that exercise. So if you want to go with that, it's beautiful. So you can see it here in your result set. So you can always reduce this result set so it doesn't cover you that much. So these are all the transactions given to us. Now is now want to start what we are asked to do, and I said we'll finish in the next 10 minutes. What is it? We are told to create a view to monitor these transactions. This is where we'll now create a MySQL view. You will give it a name, any name you would like. So let's come here and do that. So we can give it a name called customer transactions view. We say create, this is the syntax for it, create view. The name, customer transactions view. Why are we creating this? Remember, we are creating it to monitor customer transaction. That's why we'll name it in line with it. So you don't create a view and you give a different name. It will lead to some errors. Management wants something they can understand. Customer transactions view. As what? We'll now say as. We'll come down. Then, to view these transactions, those important information you will need, you will now write your select statement to get them. You say select, anytime I want it, select, let's say C full name of this customer. This is my own way of writing. And say account number. Account type. Transaction type. So now see why I'm using C. This C stands for customer. So if you want to go and type customer full name, that's fine by you, because you are saying that I want to select full name of the customer from customer table. That's why I did C for customers. So I don't have time to come and be wasting. Instead, my method, I use short C for customers for the name of the table. For transaction type is found on transaction table. So I'll use T for transaction. Instead of coming here to do transactions, I just shorten it T for transaction. Then I come down. The next thing I'm going to do, what are those information I want to track? I need the amount. I need to know the type of transaction and the amount. So amount, I also do T. Then I move. I come down. I say T dot transaction date. Because we must monitor, we need to know the date. Now, these things we have here are coming from a table. Customers are coming from a table. In fact, it's two tables. Customers and transactions. This is where join comes in. What we call join. Don't worry, after this, I will just tell you something little on it before we round up for this. I will now come and say from, because I need to make my SQL to understand what I'm doing. It needs my interaction with it, so it can be able to perform what I want it to perform. I'll now use this operator, call from, and say SQL, my SQL. When you are reading, my SQL system does two things. It reads your data reading, before it executes. It will read from the beginning. Yeah. Oh, you want me to create, and it moves like that, and then come and reach here. It will be confused at this point. You stop here. So what we now do in practice, we will now say from, that to let it know where these things are and what I have encoded. So I will say MySQL, when you get to this point, from customers, name of the table, customers table, I named it as C. As C. Please join it for me. I will now use what we call join in MySQL. Join it with what? Join two of them. Join it with the table called what? Transactions table. That I decoded as what? T. Sorry. Customers I decoded as C. I'm supposed to put C. This one I decoded as T. On. You now specify it again. Let it be aware. C. Remember, I use C. Now, what was the primary key? Because when you are joining, there must be a unique identifier. There must be something that is in one table that is also in another table. We made use of customer ID. That is what we make primary key. Remember. So here you now tell MySQL that look, this is what we use to help you join these two tables together. So it can be easy for me to retrieve data. This is what I have used when I was creating this table as my primary key. So it is what you need to now use to link that bridge that you want to link. What is it? C dot what? Customer ID. My usage of C is an abbreviation. If you type further, it brings out what? The customer's table. That's what you're supposed to select, like this. But I am not a fan of using long stuff. Rather, I will prefer going with short. C dot customer ID. Once I do that, it's not only what we have, we also made use of T. So I say T dot what? In that transaction table, we also have customer ID. Customer ID. That's all. Semicolon. This is how we create views. We will practicalize this shortly. Let me add someone who wants to join. Now that we are done with this, what do we do next? We execute. So line 3. It executed successfully, because if you look down, you see create view, customer transactions. You can see it here if I hang around. Create view, customer transactions executed successfully. Now let's go to the scenario. Is now want to now solve this problem for them. We have done every other thing. Let's now go. In fact, let's open a new script. Now that we have created our view, do you know what will now happen? Is the bank, Zenith Bank. They can now easily monitor transactions. Yes, all they need to do is to ask a question. In stored procedure, we made use of call, if you recall. Now, here, they will ask a question. They won't call, they will ask a question. And I told us a question is what we call a query. When we do Tableau, Power BI, and other tools, you will see it there. That's one aspect. It will even make it easier, because there have been a lot of AI technologies now making things easier. Even Python is not scary at all. We have the Google Collaboratory, and that's even what I normally use this period, not Jupyter Notebook, which is sometimes it gives issues, but any of them can, it works fine. But Google Colab is awesome because it makes use of AI technology that could, react and give you some suggestions. Query. So what do you do? For example, let's say Zenith Bank is asking you, please, can you get us all transactions that is over 2,000 naira and that took place in September or that took place in August 28th? This is the kind of things you do. That's the kind of things you'll be working, you do. Because once the call comes, there was issues, they want to track things. They told you, please get us all transactions over 2,000 naira and that occur, let's say that occur after 28th of August 2024. As a data professional, what do? You will write a query. This is it. You make use of operators that Ma mentioned. We have different operators. There's another operator we call less than, greater than. These are operators. We use operators to perform operations. I told us what we want to do is an operation. To perform it, we need an operator. Watch. We said the bank have asked us to get them all transactions above or over 2,000 naira and that took place after August 28th. First thing I need you to understand here is what we call conditions. There are two conditions. The first condition is this transaction must be over 2,000 naira. That's condition one. Condition two, it must have occurred after 28th of August. Time for action. You write a query. Select everything from the name of the, you ask me, sir, this select everything, is it the customer table? No. If you go and say select everything from customer table, select everything from transaction, you are wrong. Why? Because if you say select everything from customer table, it will bring only customer details. But remember, we have joined these two columns, these two tables together. They are now one. Forget that you're seeing them becoming two. If there was a plugin into this database from the server, we have server tools and all of that. If there was any such, maybe an API was scripted and all of that, what happens is it's not your business anymore. Yours is to create your view. When they ask you anything to do, just go and run your view. So if I'm saying select, since I want to figure out this for them, I will say select everything from my view. It's my view I will now be focused on. What is that view? That's what we used to track. What is the view? The name we gave the view. We gave it here. We said the name is what? Customer transactions view. So all I have to do is to come here and say customers transaction view. So you write all this down. If it's in practice, you know your views. So anytime they ask you to do something, you know what to do. So customers transactions view. That's the name of the view. Once you have done that, remember condition. If you wanted to see everything, what will I do? I will run only this. And what do you see? Is it not both customers, their account number and everything that is here? Those things we listed. Full name, account number, account type, account transaction type, amount, transaction date. This one gives us everything. Everything, because we want to see everything. That's why if they were telling us, please show us bank statement of just a particular day, I will use operators. Now let's go. Recall what we are told here. Get us transactions that is over 2,000 naira and that occurred after 28th of August. I will now use operators. What will I do? I will say where, anytime you have any analysis, try to study it to find out, to understand, is there any condition attached? Once there is condition, the operator you use is what we call clause and where. We call it where clause sometimes, but just know it's called where. You're not telling the database system that, look, here's a condition. That don't just select everything from this view for me, but select only those that the amount, so say where amount is over, we use our sign for it. How much? 2,000 naira. There was another condition that it must be after 28th of August. We now use an operator we call the AND operator. And say AND for the second one. 28th of August after, that's transaction date. And there is a column for transaction date. So we say AND transaction date. You write the name of the column. Transaction date. We say after, we use the greater sign for after. After what? You put 28th of August, 2024. August 28th. And your semicolon. Let's now execute this. Let's see what we have. If we come and execute this, what did it give us? What do you see? Hello? If you go to the date, do you find out that the date is all the transactions after 28th of August? Look at it. From 28th of August up, is not what we have. If we look at the amount, is there any amount that is less than 2,000 naira? No. Because we are told to get transactions that is above 2,000 naira. Now, flow with me. Let's say Zenith Bank notice an unusual pattern. I hope we are not confused with this word pattern, but just bear. When we get to Tableau, we will understand it, because pattern is very important. Very important. Now, let me just, like, what's the kind of pattern I mean? Let's say they notice that, this some fraudulent tax, mostly those that are doing frauds and all of that, okay? There's a way you can catch them. Now, let's say that Zenith Bank noticed that a large amount of deposit was made into an account. And immediately after that, the money was withdrawn. That's a pattern. They can detect fraud. Because how can somebody just put money, just enter your account, maybe 50 million, the next 1 minute it leaves? The third bank will not trace it. Something is fishy there. Yes. If Zenith Bank is now saying they want to identify the customer that was involved in such an activity, what they need from you is what you have created for them, called customer transaction view. From it, they can see clearly the customer that was involved. They will see the deposit. They will see the date. They will even see the time of those transactions. And what do you think bank will do? That's why you see people say, hey, bank, flag my account. Bank did this, they block my this. It's because they have been able to identify a kind of a suspicious activity in your accounts. And we have the EFCC, we have a lot of we have our anti money laundering regulations and all of that. You ask me, sir, as some students previous course we ask, sir, this thing we have done now, what does it impact? What kind of insight has it given? One thing you don't know is what you have just done to Zenith Bank. You have given them a transaction monitoring system with MySQL views. They can now always generate real-time insights. If there is an issue that just come up quickly, You run this your views for them, and many other view you might have created and kept. Before you know it, it will give quick response to issues that they have. So you can see a scenario we just look into now. Not just about our normal data management, but even in bank operation, your skill is required. So this is the power of SQL views. It's now for you to now try to see how you can use it. Apply it. Application matters to whichever scenario you want to do it. So because of time, we will be rounding up shortly. Then for views, please, there is one of my lessons on joins. Sorry, on joins rather. It's one of my lessons on joins. I will forward it to the group. So please just take your time, go through it, okay? Go through that joins, because a lot of persons usually used to complain that joins is very hard, views is very hard, MySQL is very hard. You can see it here. These are the things they used to complain about. So I don't know if any of us have any question on this. Before, oh, sorry, I think somebody just messaged me now. Please, before your question, somebody just messaged me. Said, sir, did not tell us what SQL view is. Please, like I mentioned before, I said in SQL we have what we call view, and that view is like a table. Do you know why we call it a type of table called visual? If you refresh, go to a new script. On that Zenith Bank, you're supposed to see customers transaction view, but it is not there. It is not there. Rather, it is in where we call views. Now, do you know why we call it visual table? It's because the way we created this view is not the way we created this other table. Why is it table? It's table because when you call it out, when you run it, it still brings a table format. But it was not created the way, when we are creating this view, we didn't enter look at the syntax now. It was not the same pattern we use. Look at it. Is this how we create normal table? No, we did not follow that. So that's why I said that we call it a virtual table in your database that allows you to see data from one or more tables without directly accessing the tables themselves. We have just seen data from those two tables, yeah, without accessing customer table. We did not access it. Look, did we access it? No, we did not access transaction table. We did not. In fact, see it as something you save, because as you see it, so it has been saved. Come back next year, you will run it. So it's something you save. You can use it anytime. You want to look at data anywhere, this, that, you can do that, and it gets it for you. So if you are having a complex, maybe big data, where you have rows, thousands of columns, you don't need all that information. I told us. That's why we are using this asterisk here for everything. If they only want the names of those customers only, I will change asterisk to what? Full name. I told us these things now. Asterisk, as a developer, I will tell you asterisk means everything, all. Full name only. I told us. You see it. If you want the name and the amount they paid, you say comma, you put amount in this place and you run it. It will show you the name and the amount, provided that column is what you have indicated, and you see it there. So for me, view lets me create a focused, in softwares there's what we call snapshot. Snapshot is that model that gives you a kind of an overall, like a summary, key summary of how maybe the business is doing and all of that. So it also gives you that snapshot of the data. That way you'll be able to understand. Okay. Things you must note before your questions is what I've just said. Just know that your views, now Another way I need you to understand something here is this. You can see it here. Okay. Messages on this. Some people say they wanted to insert data into their view. You don't insert data inside your view. Please, when you want to insert data, maybe there is a new customer, you don't go and insert it into this view. Views do not store data. Always remember, where you store your data is in the original table. Views' own work is different. Views is based on the tables, the original tables. Views do not store data. What view does is presentation, data presentation. That's what view does. Its own work is just to present the data in this format, or format you can customize. In fact, that's relevant data because that's what it provides. I hope we understand this. You ask me, sir, what are those things I need to know when I'm creating view? Number one, when you're doing it, make sure the name is very plain and simple because of clarity. Management wants what is easier for them to understand. Don't make it complex. Use descriptive names. Use names that clearly reflect their purpose. Customer transaction view is to view or is a view that shows customer transactions. Is it not a language that is easy to understand? And that's it. When creating your view, another rule, only use columns that are necessary. These are not all the columns in those two tables. Why did I choose only this? It's because based on the problem, this is the column that are important to what I want to do. That's why I use it. I don't need too many data. It's what is important I use. I hope we understand. So as your database, keep getting a lot of things, changes on it, and all of that, all you have to do is to ensure you update it so that you can always stay on track. Now, when we talk about updating views, I'm not necessarily talking about you coming to modify. Maybe your view is this, coming to modify it. No. What I'm saying is that whatever data that needs to go into the original table should go there at the right time. That's what I mean, because your views pulls data it wants to present from the original table. I hope we understand. So, what if, because there are times this happens in practice, maybe along the line, you went and deleted email. They say they no longer need email in customer column and table. You deleted it. That you delete it does not mean it has changed over here. So you also have to do what? Update your views. Why? Because when you created your views, you also choose columns you will use. So maybe you have used email here. You have to also come and remove it. Update your views. Or maybe in this place, in our transaction table, where is it? In this transaction table, let me show you an example. Let's say we now have a new column the bank have added called transaction status, for example. Let's say we now have transaction status. What you will do is to come and update your view. You come and update it again. You will write this thing again. But when you're updating it now, you will not use create view. Create view is only when you're creating the view for the first time. For making changes, since we now have a column called transaction status and they say it's compulsory, I will just come write this again and say alter view. What's the name of the view? You now add what you want to add. You can come here now and say T transaction status. That's all. That's all. This is how we do the updating. Now it's not working because transaction status that table. That's why this is not happening. It's not in that table. So it must first be added to transaction table. Then you come here and use alter to do what? To update it. I hope you understand this. This is a mandatory tax you will do because every business expand, they grow. So don't expect the table to be there because recall, we are done. Recall when we talked about the three V's. We looked into volume, we looked into velocity, we looked into variety. That these are certain concepts that makes us to actually understand the domain of big data. We talked about it, recall. So as business needs begin to evolve, we have what we call needs requirements. The requirements for data presentation will change. You may need to add transaction status, whereas it's now on the other table and your view does not have it. You have to come and alter. If you alter it, will not show you this error again because it has linked up to find out that yes, transaction status actually exists. So your view, if there's anything I will tell you, is that as businesses evolve and grows, your view must align with new needs. It must. When we look at needs requirements, that's the reason why you see a data professional still extend to do business analysis courses too, because of those other aspects like needs requirements, requirement gathering, user cases, stories, and all of that. To just balance the equation. So theoretically, you're sound in those aspects. You can manage projects and also balance everything up perfectly. So this is where we'll round up. And like I said, don't forget, every data that affects your original table, if it is important, ensure that it reflects in your view. So that you don't go and do a presentation like this and they say, but why is so information is not here? Were you not told it is supposed to be here? Oh, it means that you have not regularly reviewed the data returned by your views to ensure that it still meets your needs requirements. So you must regularly make it a mandatory practice to ensure that you check your data. You check performance. You optimize your SQL queries inside your views. Ensure everything works in fine. That's testing. So even when you come and you have added it, execute it. Go. Test it. Always test it. And confirm if it is returning the correct results. It's important. We have, when we talk about a subdomain in metadata called quality metadata, there is a domain there we call data integrity. How do you think you can maintain that? It's by testing. You build model and you test it. So you test your model. Your view must meet the intended purpose. So this is all I can say on this. So if anyone have any question, you can chip it in or suggestion, then we are done for tonight. I will send the other short record I talked about in MySQL joins. Of course, you saw how we did some demonstration on it. So thank you for this session. Is there any question?
Please let me see the table for view. Let me see how the view is created. Show the work for view. How are you going to draw about
Okay, let me remove the transaction status. You know, it was not supposed to be there. Okay. I've told us why I use C, why I use T. Encoding. Are you done? In fact, you see this C, this T, some persons will call it alias. If you go through your you
I
see
just take
something
it.
called aliases. Okay?
That's the reason. Let me go and look up.
Okay? So it's just a short form I made.
That
So
is
since there is no more question on this, Please, the only thing I made use of, like I said, is this encoded format. I've told us what it is called, so in case you see it in your exam, don't be confused. It's the principle of abstraction. It's a common principle in programming.
Good.
If you ask a programmer should be able to talk to you
I'm not done to you.
about abstraction. It's a
No.
principle. Okay? So these aliases I use, this C, T, is based on this principle. What is this principle talking about? It is a principle that tells us to only focus on the structure and flow of the query. Like those details that are unnecessary, you know that you actually do not need, push it away. In fact, it is also based on another principle called encapsulation. Encapsulation. You see me, I come here, I repackage the name of the table to C, to T. I encapsulate it. That's one way we manage our SQL code, especially complex codes. So take note of this. It's things that will help you. This is the syntax I've done for your alias. In fact, people did not ask me a question. People did not ask me a question, but it's okay. The question is, sir, why did you use as? This alias that is based on the principle of abstraction and encapsulation is created using what we call the as keyword. That's it. So as I was saying, that some of you will ask, sir, in fact, that's a question you're supposed to have asked. Why using as? As. One thing you must know this is this. This alias, which I said is based on the principle of abstraction and encapsulation, is created using a keyword we call the as keyword. Although as is optional in many SQL dialects or languages. So, where I'm saying C is now an alias for customers. T is now an alias for transactions. You saw it. If I come here and I am writing transactions, you saw it. It was bringing that very table. Look at it. Look at everything there. So it's for you to know that, oh, I have to choose meaningful aliases that will make it clear which table or data source it represents. Just as I kept mine short. Best practice, for best practices, you must keep your alias short. It helps improve readability, but let it not be too short so it doesn't cause confusion. Okay? So above all, ensure to use the same alias for the same table. I cannot come and use T for transaction and I'm using G. That's wrong practice. So use the same alias for the same table across all your queries to maintain what we call data consistency. Using aliases is not just about making your code shorter. No, it's a way to write your clear, concise, and maintainable SQL queries. Of course, it is small. T, it is short, but trust me, it is an essential part of writing SQL codes, queries as a data professional. I was telling some set of students last time that making your data work simpler and more efficient is a key skill for any data analyst, any database administrator, any data professional anywhere. Thank you. Please go through, and I look forward to having you in our next session. Thank you once again for engaging. Good night.